Before phones, podcasts, group chats, and awkward family dinners, humans invented the strangest technology on Earth: speech. No batteries, no Wi Fi, just air, a throat, a brain, and a tribe trying very hard not to get eaten. But here is the mystery: nobody knows the first word ever spoken, because words do not fossilize. Scientists cannot dig up a sentence like a dinosaur bone, so they investigate clues: skulls, genes, tools, symbols, and behavior. Imagine one early human spotting danger in the trees. Screaming helps, but screaming is not exactly a detailed emergency broadcast. A gesture could mean, look there. A sound could mean, move now. Together, they became survival signals. To speak, humans needed a weird biological instrument: lungs for air, a larynx for vibration, and a tongue for remixing sound. But making noise is not the same as speaking. A sneeze makes noise. It does not explain where the good berries are. The real magic happened when sound started carrying meaning. One little sound could point to fire, food, danger, or grandma. Once a group agrees that a sound means stone, spear, fire, or stop, communication becomes a tool. Planning a hunt is basically a prehistoric football playbook. You go left, I go right. Nobody trips over Kevin. Speech also helped with childcare. Human kids are adorable, curious, and dangerously committed to touching everything. And then there is the neighbor question: could Neanderthals speak too? The clues are fascinating, but not simple. Eventually, humans did more than make sounds. They made symbols: marks, colors, beads, and signs that meant something. So this is our case. Speech was not invented in one moment. It grew from bodies, brains, tribes, and stories. Here is the problem with studying the first words: nobody left a voicemail from the Stone Age. Bones can fossilize. Tools can survive. Cave marks can last. But a spoken sentence disappears the moment the air stops moving. So scientists become detectives. They look for clues speech may have left behind without leaving actual words. First clue: anatomy. Could the body make controlled sounds? Or was it just built for chewing and yelling? The mouth, tongue, throat, and breath had to work together like the weirdest orchestra ever assembled. Second clue: the brain. Making sound is easy. Connecting sound to meaning is where things get wild. Third clue: tools. Teaching someone to shape stone is hard if your only instruction is aggressive pointing. A good teacher needs timing, correction, memory, and maybe one sound meaning: please do not hit your thumb. Fourth clue: genes. But there is no magic language button hidden in DNA, no matter how cool that sounds. Genes may shape the ability to learn speech, but culture teaches the actual words, accents, jokes, and terrible puns. Fifth clue: social life. Language makes more sense when a group needs plans, warnings, gossip, and rules. If you can say, meet there tomorrow, you just upgraded from reacting to planning. Nature should be nervous. Sixth clue: symbols. Marks, pigments, and beads suggest minds that could attach meaning to things. A bead is not just a bead if everyone agrees. It means family, status, identity, or we belong together. So the first words are gone, but the evidence trail remains: bodies, brains, tools, genes, symbols, and tribes. First stop on the evidence trail: the body. Because before humans could say anything smart, they needed hardware that could make the sound. Speech begins with air. Your lungs push it upward like a tiny biological leaf blower, with surprisingly dramatic career goals. Then the air hits the larynx, the voice box. Tiny folds vibrate, turning plain air into raw sound. But raw sound is not language. The tongue, lips, and mouth shape it into different sounds, like a prehistoric remix studio. Other animals make sounds too. The difference is control. Humans can reshape breath into a huge range of precise signals. In humans, the voice box sits lower in the throat, opening space above it for more flexible speech sounds. Great for talking, slightly terrible for lunch. Now, food and air share a dangerous intersection, like traffic with no stoplight. That is the trade-off. More sounds, better communication, but a higher choking risk. Evolution really said, read the terms and conditions. Still, anatomy alone was not enough. A perfect throat without practice is just karaoke night with no lyrics. To speak clearly, early humans needed breath control. Short bursts, long sounds, pauses, volume, rhythm, timing. A scream says panic. A controlled call can say danger on the left, move quietly, and maybe stop stepping on sticks. The more sounds they could reliably make, the more labels a group could create for tools, places, actions, and people. And every kid born into the group became a tiny language sponge, soaking up sounds before understanding the science. So the speech machine was not one body part. It was lungs, throat, mouth, brain, learning, and a patient audience. The throat gave humans sound, but the next question is bigger. How did the brain turn those sounds into meaning? Now comes the real upgrade, the brain. Because sound is only useful when someone understands what it means. A grunt by itself is just noise, but if the group agrees it means fire, suddenly that sound has power. Language needs a group. One person cannot invent a word if nobody else gets the memo. The brain had to connect sound with memory, image, emotion, action, and social context all at once. That made teaching powerful. Instead of guessing, a learner could hear, remember, copy, and improve. Kids were the ultimate test. If children could learn the sounds, the system could survive another generation. Genes mattered too, especially FOXP2. But no, it was not a magic button labeled "start talking." Speech likely needed many genes, neural circuits, learning, and culture working together like a very chaotic group project. Then came combinations. A few sounds could become many meanings, like building endless ideas from tiny invisible blocks. With meaning, humans could discuss things not happening right now. Yesterday, tomorrow, over there, and do not step there. That is huge. The brain could time travel through language, carrying memories backward and plans forward. An elder could explain a mistake without making the child repeat it. That is basically prehistoric crash prevention. Language also built social bonds. Names, promises, jokes, warnings, and gossip all helped the group stay connected. A group sharing meanings could coordinate faster. Not perfectly, obviously. Someone still forgot the plan. So the brain did not just hear sounds. It turned them into memory, meaning teaching, planning, and culture. But did speech begin with the mouth or with the hands? That question has scientists waving their arms for a reason. Before complex words, pointing was powerful. One finger could say, "Look there, come here," or "absolutely do not eat that." A hand signal could warn the group without making noise. Very useful when the bushes are acting suspicious. But gestures have a problem. They need visibility. At night, your brilliant hand signal becomes prehistoric charades in hard mode. And if both hands are busy carrying tools, food, or a kid, suddenly sound becomes the better notification system. So maybe it was not hands versus voice. Maybe early communication was the original multimedia presentation. The brain could combine signals, a sound, a pointing hand, a scared face, and the meaning became much clearer. Facial expressions mattered too. A calm face says one thing. Huge panic eyes say, maybe cancel the picnic. Teaching tools probably used everything: demonstration, pointing, correction sounds, and the universal look that means, please stop doing that. Children learned by copying the whole package: sounds, gestures, faces, rhythm, and when adults suddenly got very serious. On a hunt, gestures could map the plan. Sounds could update the plan when nature refused to follow the script. The best system was flexible. Quiet signs when silence mattered. Voice calls when distance mattered. Faces when trust mattered. That means language may have evolved as a multi-channel system, not just a mouth making fancy noises. We still do this today. Tell someone a fish was this big, and your hands start lying before your mouth does. So, hands may have helped build the bridge to speech, but survival gave humans a reason to cross it. Now we get to the pressure cooker: survival. Ancient humans did not talk because they were bored. They talked because life was complicated. One person alone had a rough deal, but a group could share food, watch danger, protect kids, and remember where water was. A hunt needed planning. You go around, I wait here, everybody stay quiet, and nobody turns this into a blooper reel. A warning had to be specific. There is a big difference between something moved and move left right now. Gathering food needed communication too. Which berries are safe? Which roots are useful? Which mushroom looks like a lawsuit? Teaching saved lives. A child did not need to test every bad idea personally if someone could explain the lesson first. Human children are curious, loud, and built like tiny chaos machines. A group needed words, gestures, and patience. Someone watched the fire. Someone gathered food. Someone repaired tools. Someone watched the kids. Congratulations. Civilization has chores. Better communication meant better tools. Instructions could travel from expert hands to beginner hands without starting over every generation. Language turned personal memory into group memory. Where water was, when fruit ripened, and which shortcut was a terrible idea. Around the fire, stories became survival files. Do this. Avoid that place. Remember what happened last rainy season. A group with shared signals could move as one unit. Not perfect, but better than everybody panic running in different directions. Over time, groups that communicated better could coordinate better, teach better, and probably argue better about who forgot the plan. Speech was not decoration. It helped build trust, share work, protect children, teach skills, and keep the group together. So, survival pushed communication forward. And the next clue comes from our ancient neighbors, the Neanderthals. Now meet the neighbors. Neanderthals, close human relatives, cold weather survivors, and absolutely not dumb cave brutes. They were not us, but they were not cartoon cavemen either. They had tools, social lives, and serious survival skills. Making complex tools takes planning. Teaching those tools without any communication would be like assembling furniture with no instructions. Neanderthals lived in tough environments. Coordinating food, fire, shelter, and movement probably required more than random noises. One famous clue is FOXP2, a gene linked to speech and language. But again, it is not a magic talking switch. Finding a gene clue is like finding one guitar pick at a concert. Interesting, yes, but it is not the whole band. Another clue is the hyoid bone, a tiny bone in the throat area that helps support speech-related anatomy. A Neanderthal hyoid from Kabara looked very human-like. Cool clue. Still not a full transcript of Neanderthal conversations. Hearing matters too. If a species talks, its ears need to catch the useful sound range clearly. Some research suggests Neanderthal hearing could support vocal communication similar in efficiency to ours. That is a big clue. When Homo sapiens and Neanderthals met, communication may have included sounds, gestures, objects, and a lot of awkward staring. But here is the caution sign. Complex communication is not automatically the same as modern human language. The honest answer is boring but important. Likely complex communication, possible speech, but the exact language level is unknown. So do not imagine silent monsters. Imagine human relatives with voices, signals, memories, and mysteries we may never fully hear. And that leads to the next clue, symbols. Because once meaning can live in objects, language gets a powerful new partner. Symbols were the next big upgrade. Now, meaning could live outside the body, in colors, marks, beads, and objects. Ochre was not just prehistoric paint. It may have marked bodies, tools, objects, and group identity. A bead is small, but if everyone understands it, that bead can say, I belong here. That is symbolic thinking. One thing standing for another thing. A sound can do it. A mark can do it too. A mark on a wall could hold a lesson longer than one person's memory. That is basically cloud storage, but rock. Children could point to the mark, hear the story, and learn what the group already knew. Symbols help strangers understand each other too. This is my group. This is safe. This matters. Once speech and symbols worked together, humans could store information, share identity, and coordinate across time. Then language became more than warning calls. Humans could talk about yesterday, tomorrow, invisible rules, and places no one had seen. This changed everything. A single brain was no longer alone. Language linked many brains into one learning network. An elder could teach an adult could teach a child, and the child could start the next upgrade. Better words meant better plans. Better plans meant better tools, safer travel, smarter shelters, and fewer Kevin-related mistakes. So how did humans learn to speak? Not in one moment. Through bodies, brains, hands, survival, neighbors, symbols, and stories. Speech was not just talking. It was survival software, social glue, memory storage, and the first human superpower. And if the first speakers could hear us now, they might say, wow, you people invented podcasts from this?